Hey everybody, welcome to the College Football Prop Show presented by LineStar. I'm Shannon Sommerville with your top 4 college football player prop bets for lucky week 13. Got some great picks for you. It's a great week of games, just 2 weeks left in the regular season, and then we're on to the college football playoffs. By the way, please let me know in the comments if you'd like us to keep it rolling with the picks throughout the college football playoffs. Generally speaking, we shy away from picks in the playoffs because the edge just isn't there as much as it is in the regular season, but let us know in the comments. A comment also enters you into our prop bets contest, whereby if we go 4 for 4, one randomly selected commenter will win $60, and we will announce that on next week's show. If we do, in fact, go 4 for 4, which we were close on for last week's picks. So let's quickly recap last week and then get into this week's picks. Before we get into the recap though, just quickly one note here, all our picks are available: Underdog, Sleeper, Chalkboard, and Parlay Play, and we've got links to those partners below. The key though is if you are a new user, make sure to use the promo code LineStar so you'll get a nice deposit match. Then you'll also get 1 free month of the LineStar app. And that is exactly the app that I'm using that I will be referencing throughout this video. The tool that I use is called the Props AI tool. What it does is it compares LineStar's projections on all the college football players to what's out there in the betting market. So you can really find some really good edge in the market that way. So I'll be referencing it throughout the video. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, you can do so, linestarapp.com. All right, recap from last week. We did pretty well, 3-1. Nico delivered for us in the rushing yards. I had 2 picks from that Georgia-Tennessee game. It was the best outcome for me as a Georgia fan because not only did both of those props hit, Nico's rush yards plus Georgia's Nate Frazier's under rushing yards, the dogs got the win there. So that was a good one for me. Sorry, Tennessee fans out there. But another one, Omari and Hampton over 117 rush yards. That dude went off for 244. Hampton is such a beast. Week in and week out, he's been cashing for us in the over on rushing yards. He's unbelievable. I'm not going there this week, though. Got to stay away from it this week. A little bit tougher of a matchup. But the only one that didn't cash for us was Lenora Sellers. Hey, he had a great game for the Gamecocks, and I faded him to my own detriment. But we live and learn, and this week we've got some good picks. Again, all of them available: Underdog, Sleeper, Chalkboard, and Parlay Play. And again, before we get into it, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. It enters you into that contest. 4 for 4, someone's getting $60. We'll announce it on the show next week. Let's start things off in the SEC. We're going to go with wide receiver for Mizzou, Theo Wease, over 55.5 receiving yards. LineStar's projection for Wease is 67.4. And he's averaging about 63.7 receiving yards per game and has been over in 5 of 10 games. Now, big situation here as wide receiver Mookie Cooper is listed as out. Now, there was some questions about whether their quarterback Brady Cook would play in this game. It's looking like he's good to go. So Brady Cook being in there, that really helps the over here for Theo Wease. They have great chemistry, so that's awesome here. Plus a good matchup going up against Mississippi State, a team that ranks 15th out of 16 teams in the SEC in opponent pass yards allowed, allowing 246 per game. And Brady Cook knows what he's doing out there. They got a great wide receiving core. I think that Wease goes over this. Mizzou coming off that tough loss at South Carolina last week where Lenora Sellers kind of picked them apart a little bit, but they're 7.5-point favorites in this one. I expect them to bounce back. And Theo Wease is a 6'2" speedy wide receiver with ability to stretch the field. He's got excellent hands and can really make those clutch catches that I expect him to in this one. So we're going Wease over 55.5 receiving yards. Elsewhere in the SEC, Vanderbilt senior quarterback Diego Pavia has cemented himself as kind of a legend for Vanderbilt. So this week we're going with him for over on his rushing yards. The line right now is 42.5 and LineStar's projection is 51. Pavia's been over this 8 of the last 10 games. And this week Vanderbilt's going up against LSU. They rank 93rd in the country in 20-plus yard runs allowed. And they're also 82nd in defensive EPA per rush. That's basically a measure of success rate, and LSU just hasn't really been effective in stopping the run. Also, mobile quarterbacks specifically have really gotten to them. Lenora Sellers had 188, Marcel Reed 62, Jalen Milroe 185. And Pavia is such a great quarterback, just a really high IQ, but he also has this bulldog mentality, just a never quit attitude, which I love, especially for this rushing yards prop. And he's going up against an LSU team that has to be feeling a little defeated after picking up 3 straight losses. They're back at home this week, but I fully expect Diego Pavia to rip off a couple big runs in this one and get over that 42.5 rush yards mark. Next up, let's head to the ACC and a spot that we had success last week with UNC's running back Omarion Hampton. And while Miami running back Damien Martinez certainly doesn't have the numbers that Hampton does, I do expect him to have success against a Wake Forest defense this week. So this week, we're rolling with Damien Martinez, the Miami junior running back, over 74.5 rushing yards. LineStar's projection is right around that line there, so this is kind of a higher line. However, I still like it. This is a line that Martinez has been over 3 of the last 4 games, going up against Wake Forest, who just gave up 244 rush yards to Omarion Hampton, where we cashed that over. But even prior to that, we saw a lot of other ACC running backs having success against Wake Forest. Clemson's Phil Maffa, for example, had 108. Henry Parrish from Ole Miss in the SEC had 133. And while I don't really expect Martinez to surpass 100 rushing yards, that's just not the style of offense that Miami plays. I do expect him to get over that 74.5 mark. Miami is 24.5 point favorites in this one in a game that does have a high game total at 64.5. So I think that game script should call for Miami to be a bit more conservative once they grab a hold of a nice lead in this one. And Martinez is a running back who is super talented, excellent vision, very patient, and can create plays by either just barreling downhill or being an elusive runner who can just shed tackles in space. So let's roll with Martinez over 74.5 rushing yards. And lastly, going to one of the best wide receivers in the country right now. We're going to Ole Miss senior wide receiver Trey Harris over 6.5 receptions. You could also pivot if receptions is not available to over 94.5 receiving yards. But either way, this is one that LineStar likes on both of those props. Over 6.5 receptions, LineStar's projection is 7.8. For the receiving yards, LineStar's projection is 113.4. So liking the over a lot in this one. And in fact, Trey Harris has surpassed 6.5 receptions in 6 of 7 games. And Ole Miss going up against Florida, 14th in the SEC in opponent passing yards allowed. Harris is averaging 8.4 receptions per game. There may be some hesitation going here because he was on the injury report earlier this week after dealing with a lower body injury. And in fact, he was out for quite a while dealing with that injury. However, somehow he's still 5th nationally with 987 receiving yards despite being out for over a month. He's not at all on the injury report anymore, so he should be a full go in this game against the Gators. And I also think he could easily surpass that 94.5 receiving yards mark. LineStar's projection again is 113 for that. So if receptions isn't available, just love Trey Harris in a spot here against a Gators defense that has struggled against the pass, and they're also dealing with a ton of injuries. So I like the spot here for Trey Harris to kind of get back on track after being gone for a little while with an injury. So Trey Harris, lock it in there. Our top 4 to recap, we're going Wease over 55.5 receiving yards, Diego Pavia over 42.5 rushing yards, and Damien Martinez over 74.5 rush yards. And also Trey Harris over 6.5 receptions is the one that we are rolling with. However, we can also go with over 94.5 receiving yards if that is available to you as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you've got any locks for week 13, please let me know in the comments. We're all trying to help each other out and beat the book. So love hearing from you guys, but also love to hear from you guys. I need some advice. For the first time in my adult life, I am actually the one that is responsible for cooking the turkey next week, and I'm very nervous about this. Don't worry, I will have a fire extinguisher on hand, and I will also have backup food in case something goes wrong with the turkey. But if you have any advice, suggestions, little tips or tricks, please let me know in the comments. And make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below because it does enter you into the contest. Hopefully we can go 4 for 4 because at the end of the day, we got to go shopping on Black Friday as well. So hopefully we can put a little money in our pocket with these picks and then go out shopping for some presents for, you know, all of our friends as we get into the holiday season, get into the giving spirit. It's a lot easier when you've got some money from all your betting endeavors. But remember to also check out the LineStar app. It's the tool that I use throughout this video, and I referenced the LineStar projections. That's just the tool that I'm using. You will see the graphics pop up with the Props AI tool. It's awesome. It's a great tool. Check it out for yourself if you'd like. LineStarApp.com. And again, yeah, drop it in the comments, your locks for this week. We want to hear from you guys. Good luck out there. We'll see you next week.